Camila Pereira disappears in Paraty during a trip with her best friend in the early hours of July 15th, 2012. The calm waters of Paraty Bay hid a secret that would forever change two families. Camila Pereira, 22, had planned this dream trip with Leticia, her best friend since adolescence. What was supposed to be a perfect getaway along the historic beaches of Rio de Janeiro turned into a nightmare when Camila simply disappeared. The two young women had arrived in Paraty 3 days earlier, staying at an inn in the historic center. Camila worked as a sales clerk in a clothing store in the Rio suburbs, saving every penny to fulfill her dream of visiting the famous beaches of Costa Verde. Leticia, her inseparable companion, seemed to share the same excitement about the trip. The day, the friends explored the beaches of Trindade and do Sono, taking dozens of photos that Camila proudly posted on her social media. At night, they visited bars in the historic center, where live music and a lively atmosphere attracted tourists from all over the country. Everything seemed to be going normally until Camila did not return to the inn that the next morning. Leticia went to the inn's reception in a panic, reporting that her friend had left during the night and not returned. The manager immediately contacted the Paraty Civil Police. The first searches began the morning of July 16th, focusing on areas near the pier and trails leading to more isolated beaches. Camila's family was notified the same day. Her parents, residents of Nova Iguac in the Baixada Fluminense, immediately traveled to Paraty, accompanied by other relatives and friends. The atmosphere in the historic town, known for its tranquility and beauty, grew tense as hours passed without any sign of the young woman. Leticia stayed in town, assisting authorities and providing details about the last moments she spent with her friend. According to her account, they had dinner at a restaurant on Rua do Comércio and later went to a nearby bar by the pier. Around 2 a.m., Camila reportedly said she would take a walk alone to clear her mind and never returned. The delegate in charge of the case, Dr. Roberto Mendes, immediately launched an investigation, though the initial scenario showed no clear signs of a crime. Paraty, despite being a busy tourist destination, maintained low crime rates, especially concerning violent crimes against visitors. The accident hypothesis soon gained traction among investigators, firefighters, and divers from the Rio de Janeiro Fire Department were called to search the bay's waters. Land-based search teams combed trails, forests, and rocky areas where Camila could have gotten lost or suffered an accident. Local residents mobilized spontaneously, with fishermen and tour guides offering help in the search. However, something about the story did not fit perfectly, and soon the investigation would reveal secrets no one could have imagined. The first 48 hours of a missing person investigation are crucial for search success. Camila Pereira's case quickly mobilized Paraty authorities and drew attention from local media. The 22-year-old, described by all as cheerful and responsible, had no history of impulsive behavior or depression that might explain a voluntary disappearance. Her parents, Maria Jose and João Pereira, confirmed that their daughter was excited about the trip and maintained daily contact through messages and photos. Dr. Roberto Mendes, the lead delegate at the Paraty police station, personally oversaw the case. With 15 years of experience in criminal investigations, he knew the first days would be decisive. When a person disappears under normal circumstances during a leisure trip, there is usually a simple explanation, but we need to investigate all possibilities. He told the local press that the first line of investigation focused on reconstructing Camila's last steps. Leticia, as the sole witness to the final moments, was interviewed thoroughly by the police. Her account was consistent. The two friends had dined at the restaurant, Quintal das Letras on Rua do Comércio, around 8:30 p.m., then went to the Bar Matriz near the pier, where they stayed until approximately 2 a.m. According to Leticia, Camila had consumed 2 caipirinhas and a beer moderately and showed no signs of intoxication. Around 2 a.m., Camila expressed a desire to walk alone to reflect before returning to the inn. Letitia claimed she tried to dissuade her, but Camila insisted, promising she would be back within an hour at most. The inn's manager confirmed that only Letitia returned that night. Security cameras at the inn showed Letitia arriving alone at 2:47 a.m. with a normal expression and steady walk. There were no records of Camila returning at any point during the night. Investigations expanded to the establishments the friends had visited. The owner of Quintal das Letras remembered the 2 clients, describing them as 2 normal friends chatting and having fun. At the Maitre's bar, the bartender recalled that they had sat at a table near the counter and briefly interacted with other tourists, with nothing particularly noteworthy. Meanwhile, search teams intensified their efforts. Fire department divers systematically combed Paraty Bay, focusing on areas near the pier and locations where ocean currents could have carried a body. Land searches covered a 5-kilometer radius from the historic center, including trails to isolated beaches and Atlantic forest areas. Camila's family set up an operations base in Paraty, with relatives taking turns monitoring the searches and maintaining contact with authorities. Maria Jose, Camila's mother, gave emotional interviews to the media, requesting information about her daughters' whereabouts and thanking the local community for their support. The case began to attract regional media coverage. Television stations from Rio de Janeiro sent teams to cover the search, and Camila's disappearance gained prominence in local news. Posters with her photo were distributed throughout the town, and social media mobilized to share information about the case. But as the searches continued without concrete results, a shadow of mystery hung over the investigation. Something in the statements and the chronology of events began to unsettle the more experienced investigators. 3 days after the disappearance, the investigation encountered its first inconsistencies. Investigator Carlos Montero, a veteran of the civil police with 20 years of experience in missing persons cases, was assigned to assist Delegate Roberto Mendez in handling the case. His first task was to meticulously review all statements and evidence collected so far. What he found drew his professional attention. During a second interview with Letitia, conducted on the morning of July 18th, some details in her account showed small variations compared to her initial statement. When asked about the exact time she had parted from Camila, Letitia had initially said around 2 a.m., but now she claimed it was precisely 2:15. Small inconsistencies like this are not uncommon in stressful situations, but they caught the investigators' attention. Letitia was visibly nervous during the second interview, Montero noted in his report. She showed signs of insomnia, hand tremors, and difficulty concentrating. While this is expected given the traumatic situation, some aspects of her behavior warranted closer observation. Analysis of security cameras from the establishments visited by the young women revealed other intriguing points. At the Maitre's bar, footage showed Camila and Letitia sitting at a table near the counter between 10:30 p.m. and 1:45 a.m. During this period, it was possible to observe Camila leaving the table 3 times, presumably to use the restroom, while Letitia remained seated, occasionally fidgeting with the glasses on the table. Delegate Roberto Mendez decided to expand the investigation beyond Letitia's account. Other bar patrons were located and interviewed. A tourist couple from São Paulo recalled briefly speaking with the 2 young women around midnight. They seemed like close friends, but there was something strange in the dynamic between them, reported tourist Fernanda Silva. The brunette Letitia spoke very little, while the blonde Camila was more outgoing. At times, I noticed the brunette watching her friend with a different expression. This observation piqued the investigators' curiosity. They requested more detailed information from Camila's family about the friendship between the two young women. Maria Jose, Camila's mother, revealed aspects of the relationship that had not been mentioned previously. Leticia had been very close to my daughter since school, Maria Jose explained. Sometimes I thought she copied Camila too much, wore the same clothes, used the same perfume, even cut her hair the same way. At first, we thought it was cute, but over time, it started to feel strange. Camila complained that she had no privacy and that Leticia wanted to do everything just like her. This information offered a new perspective on the relationship between the two young women. Investigator Montero decided to examine the history of the friendship more deeply. He discovered that Leticia had enrolled in the same technical course as Camila, frequented the same places, and had even shown interest in the same boys during school. Camila's co-workers, interviewed by phone, confirmed that she had commented on her friend's clingy behavior. Camila said Leticia had no personality of her own and copied everything she did, reported Bruna Santos, a colleague at the store. She was somewhat tired of it, but didn't dare confront her friend because she had known her for so long. Physical searches continued without results. Professional divers hired by the family scoured deeper areas of the bay, while teams with search dogs combed trails and forested areas. The Brazilian Navy provided a vessel to expand the maritime search radius, but no trace of Camila was found. Meanwhile, Leticia remained in Paraty, staying at a hotel paid for by Camila's family. She actively participated in the searches, distributing flyers and speaking with local residents. Her dedication impressed everyone, but some details of her behavior continued to draw investigators' attention. The mystery deepened, and an uncomfortable question began to form in the minds of those involved. Was Leticia telling the whole truth about the events of that early morning? 1 week after the disappearance, a false lead temporarily diverted the investigation. On July 22nd, exactly 1 week after Camila vanished, the case took an unexpected turn. A local fisherman, known as Su Benedito, approached the police station claiming to have relevant information about the case. According to him, during the early hours of the disappearance, he had witnessed a dispute between two young women near the pier around 2:30 a.m. I was returning from fishing when I heard raised voices near the boats, Benedito told investigators. There were two women, one blonde and one brunette. The blonde seemed to be arguing loudly with someone. Then I heard a splash, like someone fell into the water, but I thought it was a big fish jumping. The fisherman's statement completely shifted the focus of the investigation. If true, it indicated that Camila had not gone for a walk alone, but had been accompanied by Leticia, directly contradicting Leticia's version of events. Dr. Roberto Mendez immediately summoned Leticia for a new statement. Confronted with the fisherman's account, Leticia appeared visibly nervous. She initially denied having accompanied Camila to the pier, maintaining her original version of events. When pressed about the possibility of omitting information, she began to cry uncontrollably and claimed to be confused due to the trauma of the situation. Maybe I went after her, Leticia admitted after 2 hours of questioning. When she left the bar, I was worried and decided to follow her, but when I got to the pier, I couldn't find her. It must have been me the fisherman heard, calling her name while looking for her. This new version created even more inconsistencies in Leticia's account. If she had gone to look for Camila at the pier, why had she not mentioned this in previous statements? Why had she categorically stated that she returned directly to the inn after leaving the bar? The investigation intensified. Investigator Montero organized a reconstruction of the events at the pier, with Leticia demonstrating exactly where she had searched for Camila. During the process, it became clear that she knew specific details of the area that would not align with someone who had been there only once during a desperate search in the dark. Meanwhile, the technical team from the civil police conducted A more detailed analysis of the clothes Letitia had worn on the night of the disappearance. The items had been voluntarily submitted for forensic examination, and the results revealed microscopic traces of seaweed and salt consistent with seawater. Splashes. This could be explained by proximity to the pier during the search for Camila, analyzed forensic expert Joe Santos. But the quantity and distribution of the particles indicate more direct contact with the water than would be expected from a simple land-based search. At the same time, Sue Benedito, the fisherman, underwent further questioning to confirm the details of his account. He maintained consistency in his version, providing specific details about the local time and characteristics of the voices he had heard. His credibility was reinforced by the fact that he was well known in the community as a trustworthy person with no motivation to fabricate a story. Camila's family followed the investigation's developments with anxiety. Maria Jose publicly expressed her confidence in the authorities, but also voiced concern about Letitia's behavior. "She was like a daughter to me, but now I don't know what to think anymore," she told the press. The tension between seeking the truth and maintaining hope of finding Camila alive created an emotionally charged atmosphere. Physical searches continued, now focusing on wider areas along the coast, considering the possibility that the current had carried the body. Meanwhile, Letitia hired a private lawyer, claiming she felt unfairly targeted by the investigation. Her defense argued that the inconsistencies in her statements were the result of psychological trauma and that there was no material evidence linking her to her friend's disappearance. But the investigation was only beginning to reveal its darkest secrets, and a shocking discovery was about to completely change the course of the case. After 2 weeks without results, the searches were suspended, and the case seemed to cool down. On July 29th, 15 days after Camila Pereira disappeared, Delegate Roberto Mendez made a difficult decision. With limited resources and no new concrete leads, active searches were officially suspended. The operation had mobilized more than 50 professionals, including firefighters, divers, civil and military police, as well as dozens of local community volunteers. "We are not giving up on this case," Dr. Mendez clarified at a press conference. "Investigations continue, but we need to reallocate resources to other occurrences. Any new information will be immediately investigated, and we maintain open channels for receiving tips." The decision sparked outrage from Camila's family. Maria Jose, who had remained in Paraty throughout the searches, accused the authorities of abandoning them. "My daughter has been missing for only 2 weeks, and you're already giving up. What mother can accept that?" she asked tearfully during a protest in front of the police station. Joe Pereira, Camila's father, tried to maintain composure in the situation. "We understand the limitations of public resources, but we will continue looking for our daughter on our own. We will not return home without answers," he told the local press. The family organized an independent search campaign, hiring private detectives and professional divers with their own resources. Posters were reprinted and distributed in neighboring towns. A reward of 10,000 reals was offered for information leading to Camila's whereabouts. Letitia, meanwhile, returned to Rio de Janeiro after being released by the investigators. Her departure from Paraty was discreet, avoiding both the press and Camila's relatives. Before leaving, she gave one last statement, reaffirming her version of events and denying any involvement in her friend's disappearance. "Letitia has always been a calm, studious girl," defended her mother, Consecu Silva, in an interview with O Globo. "She is devastated by what happened. They were best friends since adolescence. I cannot accept that my daughter is being treated as a suspect." Back in her routine in Nova Iguac, Letitia showed clear signs of post-traumatic stress. Co-workers reported significant changes in her behavior, social withdrawal, irritability, and exaggerated reactions whenever Camila's name was mentioned. She requested medical leave from her job, citing depression related to the trauma. Investigator Carlos Montero continued working on the case unofficially, reviewing evidence and exploring leads that had been left aside during the intensive searches. His experience told him that cases like this rarely remain unsolved forever. Perfect crimes don't exist, he often said. There's always a loose thread which, when pulled at the right time, unravels the whole plot. The local media gradually lost interest in the case. Without dramatic new developments, other events took over the headlines. Camila Pereira's disappearance became just another statistic in the police records, filed alongside hundreds of other unsolved cases. For the family, however, each day without news meant renewed agony. Maria Jose developed chronic insomnia, waking every night at the same time she had received the call informing her of her daughter's disappearance. Joe O. Pereira immersed himself in work as a form of escape, though colleagues noticed his constant distraction and weight loss. The city of Paraty gradually returned to its normal tourist routine. The case had temporarily shaken the destination's sense of security, but new visitors arrived daily, most unaware of the tragedy that had occurred weeks earlier. Meanwhile, the waters of Paraty Bay continued their perpetual movement, guarding secrets not yet ready to surface. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like. 1 month after the disappearance, fishermen make a discovery that changes everything. On August 15, 2012, exactly 1 month after Camila Pereira went missing, 2 local fishermen made a discovery that would definitively shake the case. Jose Carlos and Manuel, who had gone fishing before dawn near Vermelha Beach, spotted something floating near the coastal rocks. At first, I thought it was a tree trunk, Jose Carlos later reported. But when we got closer with the boat, we realized it was a body. It was a terrible shock. We immediately returned to shore and contacted the authorities. The civil police and the fire department arrived at the scene in less than an hour. The body was carefully removed from the water and transported to the Forensic Institute of Angra dos Reis, where an autopsy would be performed. Although the state of decomposition made immediate visual identification difficult, characteristics such as height, hair color, and clothing indicated that it was Camila. The official confirmation came the next day. DNA tests comparing samples provided by the family confirmed that the body was indeed Camila Pereira. The news was delivered to the parents by Delegate Roberto Mendez in what he described as one of the most difficult conversations of his career. It was the most painful moment since we began the search, Dr. Mendez recalled. Informing the parents that we found their daughter's body is always devastating, but at the same time, it brings relief because the family can hold a proper funeral and begin the grieving process. Maria Jose received the news with a mix of relief and despair. On one hand, we knew our daughter was no longer suffering. On the other, it meant that our worst fear had been confirmed. Camila was dead. She later said in an interview. The autopsy report, finalized 3 days later, revealed crucial information for the investigation. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation by drowning, but the toxicology report detected the presence of rohypnol in the victim's system. Rohypnol is commonly known as the date rape drug, often used to facilitate sexual crimes due to its sedative and amnesic effects. The presence of this substance in the victim completely changes the nature of the investigation, explained forensic expert Joe Santos. Camila did not die by accident. She was deliberately drugged before being drowned. This constitutes qualified homicide. The discovery of rohypnol officially transformed the missing person case into a homicide investigation. Delegate Roberto Mendez completely reorganized the investigative team. Bringing in violent crime specialists from the capital Leticia immediately went from being the key witness to the primary suspect. Investigator Carlos Montero, who had long harbored suspicions about inconsistencies in Letitia's statements, felt validated by the discovery. From the beginning, there was something strange about her version, he noted. Now we had material evidence that Camila was the victim of a premeditated crime. A new line of investigation was opened, focusing on discovering how and when the Rohypnol was administered to Camila. The surveillance footage from the Bar du Mattress was re-examined with this perspective. Investigators noted that during the 3 times Camila left the table, Letitia remained alone with the drinks. It's entirely possible that the substance was placed in Camila's drink during one of these absences, Montero analyzed. Rohypnol is odorless, colorless, and virtually tasteless when dissolved in alcoholic beverages. The victim would hardly notice. Letitia was summoned for a new statement, now as a formal suspect. Accompanied by her lawyer, she categorically denied any involvement in the crime. When asked how she could explain the presence of Rohypnol in Camila's system, she claimed to have no knowledge of the substance and suggested that Camila might have been drugged by a third party at the bar, not my client is the victim of a biased investigation, her defense attorney declared. There is no material evidence linking her to the crime. Being present at the location does not constitute proof of culpability. Camila's family followed the developments with a mixture of satisfaction and anguish. Finally, the investigation pointed to a real crime, but the possibility that their daughter's best friend was responsible was almost unbelievable. The investigation was only beginning to uncover the darkest secrets of this tragedy, and the most shocking discovery was still to come. The investigation delved into Letitia's personal life, revealing disturbing behaviors. With the confirmation of homicide, the civil police of Rio de Janeiro officially took over the case, assigning a specialized homicide team to lead the investigation. The lead detective, Dr. Fernando Alves, brought 25 years of experience in complex crimes and a solid reputation for solving seemingly impossible cases. Crimes between close people usually leave emotional and behavioral traces, Dr. Alves explained to his team. We will investigate not only what happened that night, but the entire history of the relationship between these two young women. The first step was a detailed search of Letitia's residence in Nova Iguac. With a judicial warrant, investigators searched every room of the house she shared with her mother. In Letitia's bedroom, they made discoveries confirming suspicions about her obsession with Camila. Her wardrobe contained clothes almost identical to those Camila wore, bought from different stores but following the exact same style. A shoebox hidden under the bed revealed more than 200 photos of Camila, including images taken secretly at various moments at work, on the street, and at social events. It was like a shrine dedicated to the victim, described investigator Montero. Letitia had systematically collected photos, objects, and information about Camila over the years. The level of obsession was disturbing. Among the items seized was a personal diary Letitia had kept for 3 years. The pages revealed the progressive development of her fixation on Camila, starting with admiration and evolving into envy and resentment. She always gets everything she wants. Guys look at her first. People laugh at her jokes. Even my mother says she wishes she had a daughter like Camila, Letitia wrote in an entry dated March 2012. Why can't I be like that? Why does she have to have everything? Other entries showed the gradual planning of something sinister. If she didn't exist, I could be who I really am. People would see me for real, not as the boring friend of perfect Camila. Sometimes I think about what it would be like if she simply disappeared. She wrote in May. A psychological analysis of the material was conducted by Dr. Carmen Silva, a forensic psychologist specializing in personality disorders. Her report identified traits consistent with borderline personality disorder and psychopathic tendencies. The material indicates a pattern of pathological envy and obsessive identification with the victim, she explained.